Late at night at a university building, security guard Jill carefully sneaks around and enters a lab, where the camera goes off thanks to a friend's favor. Then Jill steals medicine from the expired bin. The next day she sells this medicine to Greg, who pays her less than what they agreed on. Afterward Jill goes to her mother-in-law Doris' house to pick up her children Matilda and Noah. Doris reminds her to bring the kids early, revealing Jill doesn't have custody. During the car trip Jill tries to bond with the kids and asks them questions. Matilda answers happily but Noah isn't very chatty. As the car radio stops working, another vehicle on the street loses control and Jill has to dodge it. However, a second car comes and crashes against theirs, sending it rolling down the hill and into the lake. Water starts filling up the car while Jill makes her kids take off their seatbelts so they can escape through the window. When she tries to follow them, the water is pushing her down, making swimming a struggle. Thankfully she manages to resurface and finds Noah next to her, but Matilda is on the shore being revived by 2 police officers. They share that the power is out in the entire city and tell Jill to go to the hospital because she has a nasty cut on her forehead. At the hospital, the family is surprised to see many more injured people than usual. Some men discuss what happened and think it was a terrorist attack, since a normal power cut wouldn't affect cars. Because Jill's injuries are minor, the doctors are concentrating on the worst victims, so she ends up taking care of her wound herself. A woman starts yelling something about a miracle and Jill runs to that room to discover that all the coma patients have woken up. Afterward they return to Doris, who tells them that phones aren't working either and shops aren't accepting credit cards. Unfortunately all of Jill's cash is now in the lake. Because of the situation, Doris lets Jill spend the night at her house. That night Jill can't sleep so she goes to the living room to look at pictures of her kids and her late husband. Doris joins her because she can't sleep either and they discuss sleeping medications. Jill doesn't take them because she's a recovering addict and Doris says they don't help her. After checking on a sleeping Matilda, Jill finds Noah awake too. They look at the shooting stars only to realize they're satellites. On her way to work, Jill notices nobody in town can sleep so they're trying to keep themselves busy by hanging out on the streets. She bumps into Greg, who wants to buy more medicine and is willing to pay double. Everyone is consuming something to deal with the insomnia and he's desperate to sell, so she says she'll see if she can get something later. When she finally makes it to the university, she finds nobody around. In the morning after her shift is over, Jill enters the lab to get the expired medicine and is suddenly surrounded by armed soldiers. Jill tells them she's a former corporal to get them to back off. Then Dr. Murphy comes in and is disappointed to see that Jill is stealing medicine, but she doesn't want to hear her excuses. Murphy's team and the soldiers explain that they're setting up a research hub because since the power went out yesterday, nobody has been able to sleep. Murphy tells Jill she can join them, but Jill turns the offer down. Before leaving, Murphy gives Brian the hub address and asks him to bring her family. Brian tells Jill she should have taken the offer and explains how the lack of sleep will affect everyone. Soon they'll suffer hallucinations, motor failure, and eventually their hearts will stop. Only one woman has managed to fall asleep so far and she's been taken to the hub to study why she's an exception. Jill points out that Matilda was asleep when she left and Brian wonders if she could have been dead. A worried Jill rushes back to Doris' house but only finds Noah, who tells her Doris took Matilda to church. Jill gathers a bunch of things and tells Noah they'll pick up his sister, but when they're about to leave they're blocked by Brian. He wants Matilda to be taken to the hub to study her too but Jill refuses. She and Noah walk through town while Brian follows them. People are starting to lose their minds and this makes them violent, causing them to destroy things and get in fights. They find a body behind a dumpster and Jill is shocked to see it's the sheriff. When Noah asks what's happening, Jill explains that sleep deprivation breaks the human mind. Meanwhile Doris makes Matilda meet the pastor, who encourages her to sleep so she can become a sign of hope for the insomniacs. Once she's asleep, the pastor tells his followers that they have a miracle and soon that energy will spread. However, when Matilda wakes up and Doris tries to take her out, people start asking when she'll help them sleep too and even consider sacrificing her like God sacrificed Jesus to save them. As the pastor tries to calm everyone down, the trio arrives and a cop gets ready to shoot, so again the pastor has to send everyone to their seats. Jill wants to take Matilda away but the crowd doesn't want the girl to leave and a woman reminds her that she's legally under Doris' care. When things are about to get tense again, Brian reminds everyone that the lack of sleep is messing with their personalities and tells them about the research hub, promising that scientists can solve this. The pastor refuses to let Matilda go to a lab because she'll become a test subject and Brian threatens to come back with the army, so the cop shoots him. As people panic, Doris takes Matilda through the back door and the crowd follows them. They search the other rooms in the church and Doris pretends Matilda has disappeared. After telling Noth to meet her in the forest, Jill finds her daughter hiding upstairs. They have to carefully sneak around because the cop is threatening to shoot the pastor if he doesn't hand over the girl. In the chapel, Noah is still in shock at Brian's body. He checks his pocket and finds the address of the hub. Suddenly he hears gunshots and screaming, so he runs to the forest to reunite with his family. They run as fast as they can until they manage to hide in a parking lot. Noah says they should take Matilda to the hub to get a cure and Jill refuses again, but she changes her mind when Noah points out that if everyone else dies Matilda will be alone in the world. They'll need a car to move safely, so Jill goes to Greg's garage, only to find him bleeding on the ground. He's been shot by 2 robbers, who hear her make noise. Jill quickly hides and the men assume it was Greg who made the noise, so one of them repeatedly stomps on his head to finish killing him. While Jill carefully sneaks around and gets a screwdriver to defend herself, the men steal a car and finally leave. Jill looks at all the keys on the table and chooses a car too. She picks up her kids and they drive off. During the trip, Matilda falls asleep. In the evening they find the robbers dead on the road and the stolen car crashed. Jill notices they stole the sheriff's badge and gun, which means they killed him. She takes both things and goes back to her car. Later when they stop to take a break, Jill tells Noah that Murphy's people shot the robbers. Murphy works as a psychiatrist in the army and during the war she used unethical methods to torture and kill people, including sleep deprivation. It was Murphy who helped Jill get a job after she was kicked out for her addiction. Noah understands his mother's concerns but still wants to take Matilda to the hub. The next day they find a bunch of people with no clothes blocking the road. They move aside to let them pass and stare at Matilda in the back seat. Moments later they reach an empty town and stop at the library to find a map. Jill is clearly on the verge of a nervous breakdown and tells a crying Matilda that she needs to learn how to survive in this new world, so she teaches her to shoot a gun. Matilda refuses to do it and Jill ends up shooting some books to deal with her frustration. After sending Matilda to the car, Noah and Jill look at a map to find the hub. At that moment a bunch of inmates escape from prison and start wandering around town. Jill sees them through the window and runs outside, but someone has already taken her car with Matilda sleeping on the back seat. Then a bunch of men try to take Noah, so Jill shoots at the ground to keep them back. Unfortunately that was the last bullet and the duo gets ready to run, however their car comes back and Dodge tells them to get in. As they leave town, Jill leaves the gun pointed at Dodge and tries to interrogate him. They get distracted and almost crash, but Noah warns them just in time. Dodge abruptly stops the car and uses the chance to take the gun from Jill, who tells him there are no bullets. Then Dodge takes the keys and goes to investigate a burned-down farm. He finds some new clothes and changes into them while Noah tells him they're trying to find a cure. Meanwhile Jill teaches Matilda how to take gas from other vehicles. When Dodge comes back, he gives Jill the gun back and agrees to take them to the hub because he wants a cure too. In the evening, Jill puts Matilda at the wheel to teach her how to drive. However they have to stop when they find the road blocked by a pyramid of trash with a man sitting on it. Near the trees, a bunch of savages have captured people and hung them upside down to take their blood. A terrified Jill immediately takes over the wheel and tries to leave but the car crashes against the pyramid and the savages start breaking the windows. As Jill moves the car around the trash pile, the savages reach inside and the family has to fight them to keep them out. When a woman grabs Matilda by the hair, Noah stabs her arm with a screwdriver until she lets go. Some people manage to grab Jill and almost get her out, but at that moment Matilda presses the gas pedal and they finally get to escape. The savages run after them for a while but the car is too fast for them to catch up. A few hours later the group sees the hub lights in the forest. The family gets out of the car and says goodbye to Dodge, who leaves alone in the vehicle. There's an old shack near the road, so Jill tells the kids to wait there while she checks out the hub first to make sure it's safe. After stopping at a river to freshen up, Jill approaches the hub and notices the soldiers taking injections to stay sane. She waits for a truck to cross the bridge so she can walk under it without being seen and finds some bullets on the stairs. Once the guards turn around or go inside, Jill manages to sneak in and uses the same password they used at the university to enter the lab, where she puts on a lab coat to go unnoticed. In the next room she finds the sleeping woman and the other doctor assumes she's here for the blood samples. Jill starts doing so while noticing the wound on the woman's arm, proving they've poked her dozens of times already. The woman complains and Jill promises she'll help her, but she also asks her to take care of Matilda if everyone else dies. The confused woman says she doesn't know why she can sleep because she was meant to die months ago. At that moment Murphy finds Jill and asks her about Brian and her family, so Jill pretends she didn't see Brian again after she left the university. Murphy explains they don't have a cure yet but she's made a cocktail that helps with mental sharpness, which is the injection the soldiers had. However this cocktail has been causing some neurological damage. With a hug, Murphy tells Jill she's happy she came to help, but it also sounds like she's losing hope. Afterward Jill leaves the building and sits on the stairs to cry, thinking humanity is over. Suddenly she sees flares in the sky and Dodge appears in the car with Matilda and Noah. Jill tries running to them but a soldier immediately captures her. All the guards are ready to shoot until Matilda tells them she can sleep. In the morning doctors Murphy and Katz tell Matilda that she'll help people with these experiments. Matilda discovers a monkey whose head has been cut open yet it's still alive. She holds the monkey's hand while Katz tries to put it to sleep with anesthesia, but nothing happens. They want to compare Matilda's brain activity to the monkey's, so they try the anesthesia on her and she instantly goes to sleep. Then Murphy checks on Jill, who is being kept locked up and starting to get dizzy because of the insomnia. Murphy tells her that the sleep deprivation was likely caused by a solar flare that affected their brain's magnetic wiring. Jill begs for her daughter's freedom but Murphy says humanity's survival depends on the girl. Meanwhile, the soldiers learn that Dodge is an electrician and give him a cocktail injection. In the lab, Matilda notices that the sleeping woman has stopped breathing. Katz uses a defibrillator to no avail and the woman dies. Murphy then tells him to bring Noah to compare his brain activity to Matilda's. Back to Jill, she's starting to hallucinate. Noah appears in front of her and accuses her of relying on other people to raise her kids before he starts choking her. He also takes out a knife, but at that moment a soldier enters the room and takes the real Noah away, ending the illusion. Jill's begging for her son's life is ignored. Outside, a guard thinks that a pinecone is a grenade and opens fire at random. The sound of gunshots makes other soldiers lose their minds and start shooting scientists and fellow armed men. A woman sees Jill and thinks she's an ex, so she shoots at her before self-deleting. Thankfully, the first shot fails and hits a pipe instead. Thanks to this, Jill can break the pipe and free herself. The soldier carrying Noah also loses his mind and almost kills him, however Dodge stops him just in time. When the man realizes what he almost did, he goes crazy again and tackles Dodge to kill him, so Noah starts crawling away. Jill sneaks around while avoiding the chaos and is blocked by a soldier at the door, however he's shot down by a coworker. In the lab, Katz is giving Murphy a cocktail shot while he says they're sacrificing a child for no reason. When Jill comes in, Murphy tells her she can't let her take the girl and threatens her with a scalpel. Suddenly Murphy starts feeling sick and in just a few seconds she falls dead. It turns out Katz left a bubble in the needle on purpose to kill her. Jill frees Matilda and they run to look for Noah, but they have to hide when more soldiers appear shooting at each other. Eventually they find Noah, who is touching some wires while hallucinating that it's a fish. Suddenly he gets electrocuted and Matilda rushes to get the defibrillator while dodging dead soldiers on the ground. When she and Jill use the paddles on Noah, they end up getting shocked too and they pass out. In the morning Matilda wakes up to find her mother clinging to Noah's body. She cries as she shakes him and eventually he opens his eyes, which means he's been asleep. A guard then appears behind them with a gun, but after some hesitation he lets them leave. Afterward the family gets ready to leave in a military car. Noah tells Jill that she was right about not wanting to come here and admits that she cares for her kids. Meanwhile Matilda stares at the defibrillator and realizes something. Noah's heart had stopped, which means he died, and he came back thanks to the shock. Then he was able to sleep again. She thinks she died in the lake and the cops brought her back to life, and she was also able to sleep. Matilda concludes that to get rid of the insomnia, their lives must be reset. Since Jill is barely functional anymore, the kids take her to the lake and push her down into the water until she dies. Then they give her CPR and bring her back to life. Make sure to subscribe our channel Cinema Fathom and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.